It is the year 636 CE. On a rocky plateau above a deep ravine near the Yarmuk River, dust, screams, and the clash of steel fill the air. On one side stands the Rashidun Muslim army. On the other, the powerful forces of the Byzantine Empire. Here, the fate of Syria is about to be decided. From high above, if you look down on the battlefield, you see the long, stretched-out lines of the Byzantine army facing the more compact, tighter formations of the Muslims, drawn up close to the edge of a gorge. Between them is only a few hundred meters of ground, but between their worlds lies an entire civilization's difference. Amid the chaos, one horseman stands out. KHALID ibn Walid. Male armor under desert robes, sword raised high, his figure caught as a dramatic, backlit silhouette. This is the commander who will turn this battle into one of the great turning points of early Islamic history. On the other side, we see Vahan, the Armenian general of the Byzantines. He stands in lamellar armor, a crested helmet on his head, a red cloak flowing from his shoulders, issuing commands as infantry and cavalry crowd around him. Behind him stands not just one people, but Greeks, Armenians, Slavs, and Arab Christian allies, an entire empire's army. The dense ranks of Byzantine infantry advance. They carry large oval shields and spears, moving forward in disciplined blocks. Above them, banners with golden crosses flutter in the strong wind, symbolizing the Christian empire and its faith. Facing them, Muslim infantry form a solid front line. Lighter armor, robes, and cloaks, but strong discipline. Shields up, spears ready. The plateau's dry wind blows dust across their faces, but their line holds steady. Along the edge of the battlefield, close to the ravines, Rashidun cavalry ride fast, executing flanking maneuvers. Hooves kick up clouds of dust as they move along the side of the enemy, searching for a weak point. Meanwhile, Byzantine cavalry in scale armor with decorated horse trappings launch a powerful charge toward the Muslim lines. In a cinematic side view, their lances lower and their armor flashes in the sun as they rush forward. Near the ravine edge, hand-to-hand combat turns desperate. Men struggle for footing on uneven sloping rock. Push too hard, slip even slightly, and a soldier can find himself falling dangerously close to the cliff's edge. Here, the ground is as deadly as the blade. Pull back now to a wide view. The Yarmuk River cuts through the landscape below in a deep gorge. High above, on the plateau, long lines of battle stretch across the stony ground, half hidden in dust and smoke. It is early morning. Light creeps over the Yarmuk Valley. Mist rises slowly from the river, and the silhouettes of two armies begin to form on the ridges, the Muslims and the Byzantines, both preparing for a battle that will last not just one day, but several. Now we move behind the front lines. In the Muslim camp, we see rows of simple tents. Women and children stay behind the lines, with camels and picketed horses in the background. This is more than an army, it is a whole community on the move. In the Byzantine camp, things look grander and more organized. Large command tents stand under wooden crosses. Different groups, as Greeks, Armenians, and Arab Christian allies, have their own areas, each with their own customs, but all tied together under the imperial command. A map-style image appears in front of us. The Yarmuk River region, its plateau, the deep ravines like Wadi al-Rakad, and nearby towns of ancient Syria and Jordan, Dara, Fal, Damascus, Emis, Hims. This geography will decide the tactics. We see a Roman-Byzantine road stretching toward Damascus and Emis. Once, imperial patrols rode up and down this road, symbols of Roman-Byzantine control over Syria for centuries. Now that control is about to be challenged. On a hilltop, Muslim scouts on horseback watch the Byzantine armies approach. In the distance, a narrow valley channels rising dust as the imperial army advances, proof that the decisive clash is near. In Antioch or Hims, far from the dust of the battlefield, Emperor Heraclius sits on his throne. He receives reports and maps from his officers. They inform him about the enemy concentrations near the Yarmuk. He knows clearly, if he loses here, Syria may be gone forever. Back at the Muslim side, we see a small council of commanders. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, KHALID ibn al-Walid, and Yazid ibn Abi Sufyan sit or stand around a rough map drawn in the sand. They trace lines with sticks, marking ravines, ridges, and troop positions. Their strategy is being fixed not in marble halls, but on desert ground. Before dawn, Muslim soldiers stand in straight lines for prayer. In front of them are stacked weapons, spears, swords, and shields. The horizon just begins to glow as they bow and prostrate, asking for victory, steadfastness, and forgiveness. For them, this is not just a political war, but a test of faith. In the Byzantine camp, Christian priests move among the soldiers. They bless them, swing incense, raise icons and crosses in a field chapel. They too ask God to grant victory to their side. Here we see a religious dimension on both fronts, two different faiths, both invoking the divine. Now we come closer to some key individuals. We see a portrait of KHALID ibn al-Walid from behind or in partial shadow. His face is not clearly detailed, but his posture, armor, and sword mark him out as Saif Allah, the sword of God. Next, a portrait of Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah. He stands in simple armor and a plain cloak, calm, composed, holding a spear. He is the overall commander in Syria, known for his humility and piety. Then we see Vahan, the Armenian general of the Byzantines. A stern face, lamellar cuirass, red cloak, command staff in hand. On his shoulders lies the responsibility of saving Syria for the emperor. Nearby stand Byzantine officers representing different peoples, one Greek, one Armenian, one Arab Ghassanid. They stand together next to a battle standard. This army is a mix of nations, not an easy force to manage under pressure. In the Muslim ranks, a banner bearer lifts a simple black or white flag on a tall pole above the heads of the warriors. The cloth ripples violently in the wind. For the soldiers around it, this simple banner becomes the symbol of unity and courage. Over the Byzantine central formation, a standard with a golden cross on a purple background flies. It stands as the visible sign of imperial authority, the Christian Roman Empire itself. Among the Rashidun forces are light Arab cavalry, somewhat in Numidian style, riders with light armor and short spears on fast horses. They are perfect for quick attacks and rapid withdrawals. Opposing them, heavy Byzantine cataphlact cavalry appear. Both horse and rider are covered partly in metal scales. These are the tanks of the ancient world, but on broken, rocky ground, they cannot move as freely as they would like. Behind the Muslim lines, we see Muslim women. Some carry water skins to the front. Others shout at men who try to flee, driving them back toward the fight. Tradition tells us that at Yarmuk, women played a powerful role in maintaining morale and preventing collapse. We also see an emotional scene behind the lines, Muslim warriors saying goodbye or comforting their families, wives, children, and parents, before marching up to the front. Yarmuk is not only a battle of armies, it is a test for families and hearts. Pull back again. A wide landscape of the Yarmuk plateau stretches before us. Stony ground, sparse bushes, and steep ravines dropping off sharply to the river below. This is not flat, open land. This terrain will trap many. We move closer to the river itself. The Yarmuk flows through a deep gorge between rocky cliffs rising sharply on both sides. Anyone forced down here in armor faces almost no chance of climbing back up. Along the ravine edge, there are narrow, dangerous paths. A single misstep could send man and horse tumbling to their deaths. In the coming chaos, these paths will claim many lives. In the distance, the hazy blue hills of the Golan region are faintly visible beyond the battlefield. This anchors our story in the real geography of the modern Middle East. A map-style image appears in front of us. The Yarmuk River region, its plateau, the deep ravines like Wadi al-Rakad, and nearby towns of ancient Syria and Jordan, Dara, Fal, Damascus, Emis, Hims. This geography will decide the tactics. We see a Roman-Byzantine road stretching toward Damascus and Emis. A map-style diagram appears highlighting key ravines, Wadi al-Rukad, the Yarmuk Gorge, the Muslim and Byzantine positions. For a Class 11 student, this makes it clear how terrain shaped the strategy and outcome. We see a cluster of small villages and fields representing the civilians of provincial Syria whose land now becomes a battlefield. Their farms and homes are caught between empires. The Muslim army is drawn up with its back toward rough ground and ravines. This is risky. Retreat is difficult, nearly impossible in places. But it also means there is no easy way out. They must stand and fight. The Byzantine army spreads wide across the plateau. Its left and right wings extend toward the ravines, trying to outflank the Muslims. On paper, with their numbers, the Byzantines seem to have the advantage. Strong winds whip banners, cloaks, and dust as both sides form up. The sense of instability, near cliffs, under harsh wind, adds physical and psychological pressure. Little dust devils spin briefly across the battlefield, a kind of symbol of the confusion and swirling chaos that is coming. On the first day, there are mostly probing attacks. Small Byzantine infantry units advance toward the Muslim line under cover of missile fire, test the enemy's strength, and then fall back. They want to study Muslim reactions. In response, Muslim archers and slingers, deployed in elusive formations on slight rises in the ground, send arrows and stones toward these probing units. Both sides are analyzing, not yet fully committing. Night falls after the first day. Campfires dot both sides of the plateau. Commanders in each camp discuss the day's events and adjust their plans for tomorrow. The soldiers eat, clean their weapons, and lie down in armor, half ready for a night alarm. In the Muslim camp, women and older men recite Quranic verses or supplications, praying for victory, patience, and steadfastness. This spiritual support gives moral strength to the fighters. In the Byzantine camp, soldiers sit near their tents, sharpening swords and spearheads. They listen to the distant sounds of animals, wind, and the low murmur of men talking. Tomorrow, many of them may not be alive. The second day's fighting focuses on infantry. Lines collide in the center, shields slam into shields, swords strike, spears thrust. The sound of metal on metal and men shouting fills the dusty air. We see close-ups of soldiers' faces from both sides, dust-covered, sweat-cutting lines through dirt, their expressions a mix of fear, rage, fatigue, and determination. These are not nameless figures, they are human beings caught in the machinery of war. On the Muslim left wing, Byzantine troops put them under heavy pressure, pushing them slowly back toward the ravines. The ground behind the Muslims slopes downward. Every step back increases the danger. Muslim reserves move in to shore up this threatened flank. Spears raised, officers shouting orders. They rush to block gaps before the line breaks. This flexible use of reserves is one of the strengths of Khalid's command. A small group of Muslim horse archers ride forward, harass a Byzantine advance with arrows, and then vanish behind the main line before the enemy can pin them down. This confuses the Byzantine formations. Byzantine heavy infantry press forward in dense blocks, shields up, spears thrusting again and again. For a moment, it looks like they might finally break through the Muslim center. On one wing, Muslim infantry are being pushed back step by step, the ground dropping away toward a steep ravine behind them. They feel both the pressure of the enemy and the pull of the cliff. At this critical moment, Muslim women from the camp run forward toward the edges of the melee. They shout at fleeing men. Some even strike them or throw stones, forcing them back toward the line. Historical sources mention this dramatic role of women at Yarmuk. A Muslim standard briefly falls to the ground. For a second, hearts shake. If the banner is lost, morale may collapse. But a fighter immediately grabs it, lifts it high again, and others rally around it with cries of Allahu Akbar. The line steadies. Byzantine commanders are shocked by repeated Muslim countercharges from positions that looked as if they were breaking. Every time the Muslims seem about to collapse, they somehow manage to hit back. KHALID ibn Walid, constantly on horseback, directs swift cavalry units to plug gaps and launch counterattacks wherever the danger is greatest. His mobility and timing keep the line from disintegrating. Dust fills the scene as charges and withdrawals repeat again and again. Men fall on both sides in large numbers, but neither line completely collapses. The battle turns into a grueling test of endurance. By the third and fourth days, the troops are exhausted. Yet, at dawn, they drag themselves once more into formation. Shields raised, spears ready, they stepped forward again into the same killing ground as the days before. On one of these days, the Byzantine right wing tries to swing around the Muslim left to envelop it, only to discover the ravine blocking their path. Once again, the ground itself interferes with their strategy. The Muslim right wing, meanwhile, holds firm despite repeated attacks. Archers and spearmen work together, first softening the enemy with missiles, then finishing the clash with close combat. Around this time, KHALID makes an important decision. Instead of keeping his cavalry spread out in small units, he reorganizes it into a single, powerful mobile reserve behind the center. This will become the hammer stroke that ends the battle. Byzantine commanders, seeing that repeated frontal attacks have failed to break the Muslim line, confer anxiously. Their faces show fatigue and worry. The plan is not working, and their men are dying in large numbers. There is a long, tense standoff in the midday heat. Both sides pause to drink water and reform ranks. Dust hangs low over the plateau. For a while, the battle seems frozen, but everyone knows the final decision is coming. On the final day's dawn, KHALID gives new orders. Today will be the decisive moment. He plans a massive cavalry attack against the Byzantine left flank, aiming not just to push it back, but to wrap around it and cut off retreat. The Byzantine left wing itself tries to extend further to envelop the Muslim right. In doing so, it stretches thin and exposes its own side and rear. Behind a low rise, hidden from direct Byzantine view, Muslim cavalry mass in great numbers. Horses shift nervously, riders tighten their reins, waiting in tense silence for the signal. Signal flags or horns suddenly sound from KHALID's position. This is the order everyone has been waiting for. The great cavalry charge begins. Rashidun cavalry thunder out from behind the rise like a storm, slamming into the exposed Byzantine left flank. The imperial troops are taken by surprise at the scale and angle of the attack. Shocked Byzantine soldiers turn to meet the new threat. As they twist and pivot, their formation begins to bend and warp. A straight line becomes curved, cohesion starts to break. From above, we see the Byzantine lines bending under pressure. The flank is pushed inward, the center is pulled out of shape, and now the cavalry begin to threaten the rear as well. The imperial army is starting to fold. Sensing the moment, Muslim infantry in the center advance strongly. Facing an enemy that is already turning and shifting in panic, they press forward hard, giving the Byzantines no chance to recover or form a new solid line. Mixed contingents of Byzantine allies, Arab Christian tribes, Slavs, Armenians, start to break away under increasing pressure. Some of them flee first, creating gaps in the imperial front. KHALID himself leads a personal charge into the thickest part of the fighting, surrounded by his chosen horsemen. His direct presence at the crisis point boosts his men's confidence and terrifies the enemy. Byzantine banners fall one by one as standard bearers are cut down or throw their standards away and run. Wherever a banner falls, that part of the line usually collapses soon after. The edge of the plateau becomes a deadly trap. Panicked Byzantine soldiers attempt to escape from the pressure of Muslim attacks, only to find themselves pushed toward the ravines. There is nowhere to go. Men stumble and fall into the gorge in the chaos. For a brief instant, armor glimmers in the sun as they tumble down, then they vanish into the darkness below. Byzantine cavalry tried desperately to escape along narrow paths near the ravines. Some slip. Rider and mount together tumble down steep stony slopes, smashed beyond recognition. Muslim archers and slingers, perched on slight rises and safer ground, send arrows and stones toward the retreating enemy masses, speeding up the rout. Small groups of Byzantine soldiers form last stands near the cliffs, surrounded by advancing Muslim troops. They fight bravely, but one by one, these pockets are overwhelmed. A wide shot shows the plateau after the rout has begun. The unorganized Byzantine army has disintegrated into fleeing clusters moving in all directions. Behind them, the Muslim forces advance steadily, maintaining more order even in pursuit. Far away in Antioch or Hims, Emperor Heraclius finally receives firm confirmation of the disaster at Yarmuk. In one imagined scene, he covers his face with his cloak. Hands. He knows what this means. Syria is lost. We then imagine Heraclius standing before a map of the eastern Mediterranean. As he looks at the province of Syria, he is said to have spoken words like a farewell, turning away from land he can no longer hold. The empire's border is moving back. On the battlefield, Muslim commanders now survey the ground after the final day. Bodies, broken weapons, fallen horses, the scale of the Byzantine defeat becomes clear. This was not just a loss, it was a near total destruction of the imperial field army in Syria. Columns of captured Byzantine soldiers are led away along dusty tracks, guarded by Muslim horsemen. The war for Syria is not over, but this main army is gone. Many Muslim warriors, having survived the multi-day struggle, recite prayers of thanks. They prostrate themselves, grateful for life and for what they see as divine help. Along the ravine edges lie piles of abandoned Byzantine armor and shields, some half buried in dirt. Over time, these objects will sink into the earth, becoming archaeological evidence for future generations. A caravan of Muslim troops now marches toward Damascus or Emesa after Yarmuk. Banners flutter, spirits are high. They know that city after city will now have to negotiate or surrender. The people of Syrian towns watch from gates and rooftops as the victors arrive. Some are afraid, some hopeful that new rulers might mean less taxation or more justice. Their future is uncertain but changed. Early Muslim administrators meet local Christian notables to arrange terms, taxes, security, protection of churches. Gradually, a new administrative order starts to take shape in Syria. In a former Byzantine town, a simple mosque is established, sometimes in or near older Roman structures. It becomes not just a place of prayer, but a symbol of the new political and religious order. Now we zoom out to an ancient-style map of the Eastern Mediterranean: Constantinople, Antioch, Jerusalem, Damascus, Yarmuk. For a Class 11 student, this helps to see Yarmuk in a wider regional context. A timeline graphic appears: Ajnadain, Fao, Yarmuk, Qadisiyah. These early battles show how in just a few years the Rashidun Caliphate broke the power of both the Byzantine and Sasanian empires in the region. A comparative infographic contrasts the Byzantine army composition with the Rashidun army composition at Yarmuk. Heavier armor, more formal structures, and multiple ethnic contingents on the Byzantine side. Lighter armor, high mobility, strong morale, and unified religious motivation on the Muslim side. It becomes clear, leadership, terrain, and morale mattered more than just numbers and equipment. An artistic reconstruction of the Yarmuk Plateau and its ravines appears, with approximate troop positions marked. This lets us visualize the whole battlefield and understand why certain moves worked or failed. Then we see a modern satellite image of the Yarmuk River Valley, with the borders of Syria, Jordan, and Israel annotated. The same land where empires clashed is now divided by modern states. An aerial view shows fields and villages near the modern Yarmuk Gorge, with a faint overlay of ancient battle lines. Past and present overlap for a moment in a single image. Jordanian farmers driving tractors along the northern plateau above the Yarmuk Valley, where cataphracts charged, irrigation pipes and modern agriculture now run. On the Syrian side, houses and small towns near Dara overlook rugged ravines leading down to the Yarmuk. People live normal lives on a landscape that once witnessed massive bloodshed. On parts of the modern frontier near the Yarmuk River, border fences and watchtowers stand. Political tension and security concerns have replaced the ancient clash of empires, but the region is still sensitive and strategic. Archaeologists stand on a windy hilltop near the supposed battlefield, consulting maps and old chronicles, trying to pinpoint exact troop positions. Science, geography, and history work together to reconstruct what happened. A gloved hand holds a small Byzantine-era coin found near the Yarmuk Valley. This tiny object connects directly to the soldiers and civilians who lived and died here in the 7th century. In a museum table, pottery sherds and metal fragments lie under labels that read, "Finds from the 7th century frontier." Yarmuk is now not only a story in books, but a field of scientific study. A museum display panel about the Battle of Yarmuk shows maps, reconstructed illustrations of KHALID and Heraclius, and key dates. Visitors stop to read and imagine how this one battle reshaped the map. In a classroom, a teacher explains Yarmuk. Students, a projector shows a modern map of Syria and Jordan. On the board, the teacher has written the classic headings: causes, course, consequences. An educational poster titled Battle of Yarmuk 636 CE, The Turning of Syria, presents concise bullet points and illustrations. For a Class 11 history student, this summarizes the main ideas clearly. A history book spread contrasts Byzantine and Muslim sources on the battle, with highlighted quotes. We see how each side told the story in its own way, sometimes agreeing on facts, often emphasizing different meanings. A split-screen image shows on the left the perspective of a Byzantine soldier facing the ravine, on the right, a Muslim warrior looking at the same dangerous drop. Their beliefs differ, but their fear and courage are equally human. A concept art collage combines Khalid, Vahan, the ravines, and intertwined banners, a cross and a simple flag. This reminds us that Yarmuk was not just a tactical event, it was a collision of cultures and faiths. Graphic novel-style panels show key phases: Muslim withdrawal into the Yarmuk region, days of intense but indecisive struggle, and finally the great cavalry encirclement that breaks the Byzantine army. The whole story becomes easy to follow in pictures. A mock documentary cover appears, Yarmuk, the Battle for Syria, with the Yarmuk Gorge and two opposing armies on either side. This could be the thumbnail for the very YouTube video you were planning to make. An atmospheric shot of the Yarmuk River at sunset shows golden light on the cliffs. Faint, ghostly silhouettes of soldiers seem to fade into the rocks, as if history still whispers along these walls. A stylized diagram highlights how terrain, ravines, plateau, river, shaped the outcome. Students can clearly see that geography is not just background, it is an active force in history. Another illustration compares Heraclius's empire before and after Yarmuk. Territories lost are shaded, their color fading. The shift shows how one battle accelerated the decline of Byzantine power in the Levant. We see concept art of Heraclius looking back at Syria one last time from a high pass, cloak blowing in the wind. It visually represents an empire saying farewell to one of its richest provinces. Then we see an image of early Muslim rule in Damascus, markets busy, different faiths moving through the streets together. A new political order is taking shape, with Muslims now the ruling elite, but Christians and others still very much present. A modern road sign marks the Yarmuk region in Arabic and English, cars passing by at highway speed. Most drivers may not realize they are crossing one of the great turning points of history. Next, a digital 3D reconstruction of the battlefield terrain as it may have looked in 636 CE. No modern roads, no villages, only the raw plateau and ravines. On this blank stage, the actors of history played out their drama. An artist impression shows the women at Yarmuk pushing retreating men back toward the line, faces intense with emotion. It highlights that morale and social pressure were as important as swords and spears. Finally, we return to an epic wide cinematic shot labeled Yarmuk 636 CE. Two armies face each other across the plateau, with the Yarmuk gorge yawning behind. The scene captures the exact moment when old imperial power collides with a new rising force. And at the end, a poster-style image of the Yarmuk Valley today appears, with translucent figures of ancient soldiers superimposed over the cliffs and fields. Title: Where Empires Turned. From this entire journey, your viewers and especially Class 11 students can take away some key points. The Battle of Yarmuk 636 CE ended Byzantine control over most of Syria and opened the way for early Muslim rule. Leadership: Khalid, Abu Ubaidah, high morale, flexible tactics, and smart use of terrain were more important than sheer numbers or heavy armor. A single multi-day battle, fought on a rocky plateau above a deep ravine, helped to change the religious, political, and cultural map of the Middle East for centuries to come.